Hello fellow romance book lovers, thanks for stopping by for today's video. Today's video is on the book When the Stars Fall by Emery Rose. Okay, and like literally buckle up because I'm gonna do my best to make this video not an hour long. Oh, and there's my partner Macy snoring over there. Like she's even getting comfortable. Emery Rose is one of my favorite authors. I have read all of her books. I've done videos on all of them. I will of course include them in the description box below. I have a visceral reaction to her stories. This does not happen to me with every book I read. It only happens to me with a few authors, and I am lucky enough that when I really like a story and get engaged with the story, my brain kind of kicks in and it plays like a movie in my head. I know if you're a reader, you know what I'm talking about. But there's this other thing. When I start her book, literally within a couple pages, my body engages in a way that's like, makes me feel kind of even funny to talk about. But it's like it knows something that the story is gonna give me. My heart starts beating a little bit faster. I get like uber focused. My body warms up. It's the most incredible feeling, and no pressure, Emery, you know. And I don't mean to sound like I'm a little, you know, goofy, but it's really something so special that doesn't happen to me all the time. When the Stars Fall, yes, it happened. When the Stars Fall, it's about Lila and Jude. It mostly centers around them, but there are secondary characters that are super important to the story, and they bring so much to the story. Jude is one of 4 boys. He's the oldest. His cousin, who is the same age as him, Brody, lives with them as well. His parents, Kate and Patrick, have taken Brody in. His mom kind of left him. It was not a good situation, but it tells you a little bit about Brody, and I think we might be learning more about him in a future book, fingers crossed. But it tells you a little bit that they brought him in, about the type of family that they are. Open heart, open home, really great people. Lila moves in down the street, and immediately Lila's mom, Caroline, and Kate, Jude's mom, become fast best friends. Lila and her mom and her stepdad, they get invited over to the McAllisters, Jude's family, to get to know each other. Lila's really excited because she's looking for friends, and Jude, Brody, and Lila become thick as thieves. Lila is not one to back down with all these boys. She keeps right up with them. She does not let them treat her like a girl. She keeps up with all of their dares, all of their running and jumping. They're competitive, they race, and in fact, it earns her a cute little nickname from Jude, which is Rebel. And then he also calls her Minnie Mouse when he wants to annoy her. We follow them through growing up. Brody, Jude, and Lila are best friends, and we get to the point where that starts to change a little bit. This is from Lila's perspective. I returned my gaze to Jude. He gave me a slow, lazy grin that made my stomach flip-flop. It was only in that moment that I realized that my best friend / bane of my existence was beautiful, with his suntan skin that made his blue eyes bluer and his dimpled smile and square jawline stand out. Now I understood why girls fell all over themselves trying to get his attention. I hated it. I hated the way they talked about him and oogled him and passed him notes at school. The way Ashley Monroe flipped her blonde hair over her shoulder and licked her pink gloss lips whenever he looked her way. How could I have been so blind not to notice what was right in front of me? I just stood there staring at him like it was the first time I'd ever seen him. Now who's lying, he said before he strode out of the barn, having gotten the last word. He always got the last word, but this time all I could do was stare at the door he just walked out of while my pulse raced and my heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. What had just happened? Lila is finally awestruck by Jude. in a way that we started to get little glimpses a little bit before that with Jude and Brody. And I love that kind of young love, first love stuff brewing. It makes my heart happy. Emery doesn't shy away from tough, emotional, life-altering subject matter in her books. And that's one of the reasons why I love her stories so much. And she definitely went for it in When the Stars Fall as well. There are life events that happen to these characters that are beautiful and are devastating. They face challenges in their lives, and when you experience those kind of things, it shapes you and it molds you into the person that you are, good and bad. And that's what happened on these pages. Sweet, feisty Lila experiences something when she's about 17 that rocks her world, and it's just her and her mom and her stepdad. And her stepdad is like not that great. Like she's not real excited about him. They're not real close. And her mom gets sick, knowing that that's it. Her dad's never been in the picture. She doesn't have any siblings. She has no other family. She's very close to the McAllisters. And thank God for that. They are like the friends that are family. But when her mom got sick, my heart hurt so much for her. This is about the same time that Jude and Lila are both realizing, as they're maturing, that they like each other in a special way, and how confusing that can be, and how, like I just read about what Lila says, Jude is experiencing as well. Jude had been trying to give her little hints along the way about how he felt about her. But yet Jude hasn't stopped playing the field, and she's not really sure what to do with all of that. And that kind of annoyed me, I'll be honest, but he was a typical high school boy. This is from Jude's perspective. She moved closer, just a step, but that was close enough that I could smell the scent of her shampoo, spring rain and honeysuckle. Inhaling deeply, I filled my lungs with the scent of Lila. It made my head swim and the ground tilt underneath me. I could kiss her. I could steal her first kiss right now. Just dip my head and claim her lips. Would they be soft? Would they taste like the Dr. Pepper she'd been drinking earlier? Would she kiss me back? I wanted to be her first kiss. I wanted to be her first everything. But the interesting thing about what Jude's saying here is that he had told friends and scared away any guy that came near her. So he was recognizing his feelings, but he was also staking a claim on her. And then he was also playing the field. He was a little frustrated with that. And then a little bit later, he goes on to say this. She was my favorite person, even when she got bitchy, even when she shot me dagger eyes when I talked to other girls, especially then. She was the only girl who had made me angry, frustrated, jealous. The only one who made me want to protect her from all the bad things in the world. The only girl I wanted to spend my time with. The only girl I wanted to talk about everything and nothing with. Late at night we texted. Sometimes we'd text for hours. Sometimes we just talked about stupid stuff like which superpower we'd choose or how wrong it was to mix Skittles and M&Ms together like Brody did. It didn't matter what we talked about. It didn't matter if it was 2 in the morning and I had to get up early for football practice. I wanted to be her 2 in the morning person, the one who was there for her no matter what. Lila was mine. End of story. My heart broke for Lila during this time in the book. Literally, I knew exactly how she felt, and I can't imagine being 17 and having what happened happen to her. And the way Lila reacts to what happens just gutted me, and also gutted me for Jude. And he's so torn up and he doesn't know what to do. This part of the book was really, really emotional for me. It was also during this part that Jude really supremely pissed me off. They can't see the forest through the trees with each other. They have a moment between them, and Lila is desperate. She reeks of desperation on these pages in this moment. And you know why. And they have this kind of intimate moment that you know that Lila's just grasping for straws to hold on to something. And you know what Jude's been going through on the other side, watching her go through what she's been going through and not being able to help and being pushed away by her. And he says something to her after this moment that literally I like pushed the button on my Kindle and put it down and it was like, and I'm like getting teary talking about it. I was so pissed and so hurt and so humiliated. It was like it happened to me. I felt so terrible from her. And I really did wonder in that moment. I was like, oh God, I hope it doesn't color how I feel about Jude moving forward. I actually thought that the next morning after I couldn't really sleep. I didn't want it to color the story because he's a 17, 18-year-old boy. But he really pissed me off in that moment. The sweet thing about their story is that everyone knows that they love each other and they've known it and watched their relationship and watched them grow from 8 and 9-year-old children to, at this point in the book, they're seniors in high school on the precipice of where life is going to take them. Lila plans to go away to school. Jude has always talked about going to the Marines. It looks like that's going to happen. At some point, I wanted to know if they were going to be together and when that was going to fit into their story. But this scene here from Lila's perspective had me rooting so hard for them. Jude was the lion and I was the bull. I figured it out last night. Leo and Taurus. Those were the constellations he'd put on my bedroom ceiling. It was us, and I couldn't figure out why he'd done it. Who would win if a bull and a lion sat down at a picnic table outside a roadside barbecue to eat brisket tacos with pico de gallo? Nobody would win, because lions only fought when they had something to fight for, and Jude was done fighting for me. But after we carried our order outside and sat across from each other at the picnic table, under the shade of the trees with Brody next to me, Jude bumped the tip of his sneaker against the tip of mine under the table. I thought it was accidental, but I kept my foot where it was, and when he didn't move his foot away, I wondered if it meant something. I looked up from my taco and met his eyes, those blue, blue eyes, like the wildflowers in the field. Our eyes locked and held, and all the air whooshed out of my lungs when he reached across the table and cupped my chin in his hand, brushing his thumb across my jaw. You're the messiest eater. I know, I said, my voice barely a whisper, because even though he'd removed his hand and he wasn't touching me anymore, I could still feel it. And I'd heard something in his voice that was almost gentle and turned me into a pile of goo. About effing time, Brody said. Can we all be friends again? I'm getting tired as F of playing monkey in the middle of you two dumbshits. My gaze swung to Brody, then back to Jude. I've missed us, I said, making myself vulnerable and being way too honest. But that was the true definition of bravery. It wasn't about who could scale a wall or swing across a creek filled with crocodiles. Being brave meant being honest and owning up to the things you'd done to hurt people. It was what my mom had tried to tell me, but I completely missed the message until right this minute. And now I saw it all with such blinding clarity that I had no idea how I'd been so blind. I'm sorry, I whispered, praying he'd accept my apology, because here I was, a girl, offering up her own truth and begging him to cut her some slack. Like, please take this heart I'm offering you in my own two hands. Be gentle with it. Don't break it. Would I do the same for him if the situation was reversed? I don't know. You're so stubborn, Rebel. So effing infuriating. How could you be so stupid? How dare he? Not like he'd been a saint throughout this whole 10-month standoff. You want to talk about stupid? Let's talk about Ashley, Megan, and Kylie. And you, my God, you're the most annoying guy. You have such a hero complex that you feel like you need to rescue me from everything. Oh yeah, much better to let you fall to your death. What the hell were you thinking? I just panicked for a minute, but I would have been fine. I know I can do it. Don't even think about climbing that roof without me. I don't need you. I don't need you either. I didn't even miss you. You never crossed my mind. Brody sighed and shook his head. Oh, here we go. Feels like old times. Be careful what you wish for, Jude said, and the three of us laughed. I wasn't even sure what we were laughing about, but it felt good. It felt like the world was right again. They just can't stop pushing each other's buttons and annoying each other. But it was moments like this that made me teary. When you're young and in love like that and confused about your feelings and your life has been completely uprooted and you're young. I know I keep saying that, but they were immature, but they were given this great love to discover. And I so wanted to read their great love story because they both deserved it. They graduate high school and they're ready to take that next step in their lives. Lila is going away to school, to college, and Jude is going into the Marine Corps. And the day comes for him to leave for boot camp. And this is what he says. I don't know if she cried after I left, but as the bus pulled away the next morning, she was smiling. Her smile was bright, it was beautiful, and I carried it with me all through boot camp. It meant more to me than she'd ever know because I knew she did it for me. Over the next 5 years, it became our thing. She always smiled when we said goodbye, and I later found out that she did it so it would be my last memory of her. Oh, see, I can't, oh my God. We made it work. Time and distance didn't destroy our relationship. Remaining loyal to Lila was the easy part. There was never a question of whether or not I still loved her. I've always loved Lila, and I always would, but sometimes love just isn't enough. Oh! So then we move on to part 2 of this book. Oh my gosh. It's so emotional. Jude suffers a devastating circumstance of putting your life on the line for your country. Happens to him. He loses his friends. He's injured. And he comes home and he's lost. And he doesn't know who he is anymore. And everything triggers him. And he can't think straight. And he feels weak and pathetic. And those are his words. And I could just tell it's heading for disaster. Jude goes deep and dark, and it broke my heart. Their paths, even though they are together and in a relationship, are running parallel. She's trying to get to him and be there for him and love him through all of it, organically, because of course you would. They made it through what they thought was going to be the hard time, the separation of those several years. And yet, it was just the beginning of the hard times. This is what he says at one point about Lila. She looked so fresh and clean, as if she'd scrub every last trace of me off her skin. Lila still had 5 freckles on her nose, and she was, to me, still the most beautiful thing I'd ever laid eyes on. I loved her irrevocably, wholly, madly, and I was slowly but surely ruining the very best thing in my life. Oh my God. The tears were running down my face during this whole part. I couldn't stop crying. The writing is on the wall. It's a runaway train, and you know what's going to happen. You know it. You can feel it. And the great thing about all that is that's what Emery's writing does for you. You do feel all of it. Let's take a break for a moment because I'm feeling very heavy and emotional right now. I have the Kindle app on my phone, and I read on my phone, but I also read on my Kindle. And so what I do when I'm reading is I highlight the passages that I know I want to talk about in the video. Inevitably, depending on the book, I can have a ton of highlights or I can only have some. Let me tell you, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, there we go, if I turn it. I have pages and pages and pages and pages of highlights for this book. I could write a book for Emery just with the highlights that I have from this book. But I digress. But then we get part 3. It picks up 6 years later. And I'm not going to talk that much about it because I feel like it's going to kind of give away some things that I don't want to give away. Because you know I don't like to give spoilers. But I was like, oh my God. So part 3... if I felt like my heart hadn't already been through the ringer, there was still plenty of drama left to be had between them. Thank God we do get a happily ever after with this book. What a journey. And I was so happy to read these words from Jude. So effing incredible to make her happy instead of sad. This was how I'd always imagined our life, full of joy and laughter and love. Ah, it was so good. See, I'm getting like teary. So good, you guys. Thank you for taking a moment to hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing. When you do that, it not only helps my channel, but it will help this video get shown to more people here on YouTube. Come on over to my social media, which is Cat Reads Romance on Facebook and Instagram, and say hello to me over there. If you'd like to grab a copy of When the Stars Fall, it's out now, and I have a link direct to Amazon in the description box below. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.